Hello, everybody, and welcome to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Hope you had a great 4th of July. Hope your holiday weekend is off to a good start. We are getting set to talk some Cavs and talk some Browns. Whenever we talk Browns, we welcome in the beat reporter for cleveland.com from the Cleveland Browns, Dan Lobby. Dan, appreciate the time. 4th of July weekend is here. That means, before very long, training camp, and they start doing it for real.
It happens quickly, right? You get out of that offseason program, and you think, all right, I got a little time to catch up, and then the next thing you know, it's July and time to get ready for camp. It's an exciting time for Browns fans.
Well, and the other thing that we're starting to see is Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, David Njoku. They're all getting together. They're all working out in Los Angeles. Getting that chemistry rolling. People were concerned about people missing OTA. From my perspective, a player's organized thing like this, much more beneficial than any type of organized team activities as far as chemistry and those kind of things go.
Yeah, and it shows that these guys want to put that work in and want to get together. And the thing is, they kind of did this last year too, and that's sort of when the Odell Beckham rumors started to pick up steam a little bit because he was out there working out with them. That's where he built that chemistry with Baker Mayfield. So having all those guys out there in LA, a lot of guys live out there anyway during the offseason, so having all those guys out there working out, putting in some work, running routes, Baker Mayfield throwing them the ball, it's nothing but good things.
And again, it's because they want it. They see the value in developing that chemistry. And really, it's not manufactured chemistry. Yeah. It's something that's genuine.
Yeah, you have to want to be there. You can't be compelled to be there. You've got to want to be there. And these guys want to be there working out.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the top 3 players that are important to the Browns this year. Not named Baker Mayfield.
Right, because that's the obvious one, right? Baker Mayfield is the most important member of the Cleveland Browns. So we got to just take him off the list. We know that's who everybody's going to say when it comes to the most important Browns. I've got Myles Garrett as my number one. If he had a big year last year, he's got to build on that. He's going to have an opportunity with Sheldon Richardson and Olivier Vernon, Larry Ogunjobi. I think he's got a chance to be really special this year. And if he can get after the quarterback, it makes that whole defense completely different.
And again, we made so much of a big deal about what they've added offensively. The defense is going to be really important. New defensive coordinator, too. And how does that figure in with just kind of trying to set Myles Garrett free with Steve Wilks?
Well, I think it doesn't really change a lot for Myles, honestly. I think he's going to do what he's supposed to do. Now, the thing is, he said Greg Williams limited him to 2 moves. So maybe that's the big change. Now he's going to get to do maybe 3 moves, 4 moves, something like that. So maybe that's going to end up making him more dangerous. He won't be as limited as he was under Greg Williams.
Now, another guy was number 2 on your 3 most important Browns, not named Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I went with Denzel Ward because I think he's a guy, obviously struggled with the concussions last year, so you want to make sure he's back and healthy. And if he is, he's a shutdown corner. And that's the type of guy that can benefit from Myles Garrett. And he can shut down half the field. It's going to make Greedy Williams better because guys are going to have to throw towards Greedy Williams more. So maybe he can pick off some passes. Maybe he could join Denzel Ward in the Pro Bowl. So I think Denzel Ward and the ability to shut guys down and shut down top receivers, I think that's really important.
What about the fact that Denzel Ward now being coached by Steve Wilks? And it's important to note, Wilks is a guy who made his reputation in the NFL coaching defensive backs.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got this stable of young defensive backs, and Wilks is going to help those guys get better. I'm curious to see, last year Denzel didn't really shadow a lot. He kind of played one side of the field. I'm curious if Steve Wilks is going to maybe shadow Denzel now. So maybe when they play the Steelers, is he going to be on Juju every single time? When they play these good receivers, is he going to follow guys instead of staying on one side of the field?
The third of our 3 most important Browns not named Baker Mayfield for the 2019 season. You go offense here.
I did, and I went a little bit of a different route here because I could have said Odell Beckham,
right.
I could have said Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb maybe, but I went with Antonio Callaway because I think that next group of wide receivers is going to be really important for this football team because we know what Odell can do and we know what Jarvis can do. What's Antonio Callaway going to do? Is your number 3 wide receiver, a guy you can play on the outside? He might start on the outside opposite of Odell Beckham, so he needs to step up and grow off of last season. I thought his workload maybe was a little high last year. Hopefully that can come down, but hopefully he can have a big impact with his speed and his ability to get downfield. I think he's really important to this offense.
Yeah, and the the second level guys. They're still starter. You could throw David Njoku into that group as well. They're going to have the opportunity to make plays because you're going to have to give guys one-on-one coverage if you want to take Landry or Beckham away or even Chubb or Hunt. It opens the field up for those guys.
Yeah, Njoku's a really interesting guy in that regard. Like if he is a Travis Kelce type of tight end or someone like that, this is his opportunity to show it. We're going to learn a lot about David Njoku this season. So he's another guy you could put on that list. Maybe he's fourth on this list, David Njoku, because he's a big red zone target. He's another one of those guys who's going to see that one-on-one coverage, and he's going to have an opportunity to make an impact. This is a big prove-it year for David Njoku.
And don't forget, Njoku was so young and so raw when they drafted him. They knew it was going to be a developmental thing, but you're right. An entire year of playing a lot. Now it's time to go out and play.
Yeah, that rookie year was tough for everybody that year. That was the year they went 0-16. There wasn't a lot of talent on the roster. You had Deshaun Kaiser at quarterback. Last year there were steps. He made progress. He's definitely a red zone threat. We've seen that. What he's got to do now is dominate between the 20s, not just inside the 20s, but dominate between the 20s and be a force in the receiving game.
And you can't have the drops that you had.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
were some it seemed like they were almost concentration lapses because he is a matchup nightmare for defense.
And he's one of those guys who'll make these jump ball catches. He'll go up and get any ball on the sideline, in the end zone, but then the easy ones over the middle, all of a sudden the ball ends up on the ground. I remember that Baltimore game. The Browns were driving, and everybody, we all remember the interception that ended the game, but a couple plays before that, Njoku had a gimme that he put on the ground, and it really stalled that drive.
Yep, and again, that's all a process, and let's see if they can take the next step. Well, the next step for Dan and I, we have to take a quick timeout. When we return, we'll have a little bit of fun. We'll talk rookie Browns ratings for Madden. That's straight ahead on More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back.
No other company or product can match the features, benefits, and warranty of an authentic Nature Stone floor.
My basement was a disaster. We tried carpet, we tried tile on our uneven basement floor, but nothing worked.
Moisture, dampness, even flooding will not harm Nature Stone. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, you will never have to replace your basement flooring again. Get Nature Stone installed by the end of June and save up to 50%. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor, wow, it's Nature Stone.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. The Browns training camp about a month away, and it's the time when Madden's rookie rankings are released. So the class that's coming into the NFL has all of their Madden rankings revealed right about now in early July. Well, the Browns had a veteran, punter, Britton Colquitt, talking to their top rookie, Greedy Williams, about his rankings. This is courtesy of cleveland.com.
Britton Colquitt, punter for the Cleveland Browns, here with Greedy Williams. I don't know if we've shaken hands yet. Welcome, pal. You probably didn't even know I was a player. You were probably like, who's that old guy dressed like me? Where did Greedy come from?
I was born with it. My aunt, I was like 6 months, chugging a lot of milk. And
That's very good.
Greedy Didi came about. They just left the Didi off, and I've been greedy since.
Dude. That's good, man. That's funny. So I got 4 kids, so I can relate to that.
Okay, there you go.
They're all greedy, dude. They all are. I mean, we're born greedy. That's cool, man. All right, so you play Madden?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you know all your ratings?
No.
You don't? Okay. I'll let you guess them. All right. Let's see how you do. All right. Overall.
It can't be below 80.
73.
What?
I know.
What? We got it.
I know, man. Everybody's everybody's wanting to call them. Everybody. I know.
73. They
Yeah.
might well have just made me a 65.
I know. I might be close to a 73. All right. Your speed. This is a little better.
I like a 93.
93.
That's
That's the first time somebody's nailed it. You're not gonna like this one. Tackle.
They don't believe in the hype and what they hear. Get about like a 55.
53. And he was going real low. That was hard too. You didn't want to say
They're gonna
that.
have to upgrade that.
You didn't want to say that because you didn't want to be like, I'm a bad tackler.
They're gonna have to upgrade it during the season.
Yeah. Well, you got to prove them wrong, right?
There you go.
Is the strength like overall strength, or is that like strong?
Strong, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
You good for a rookie? You're not gonna like it.
Them, once again, another bad judgment. 50-something.
54.
50.
We got to get you in the weight room.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Catching, you're probably not going to love that either.
What? Hold on. They doing background research. I had 8 interceptions in college.
That's a lot.
And in 2 years. So my catching got to be like at least, that should be the highest one. That should be like a 90.
A man named Greedy cannot have a catching rating of 67.
Who do these judgments? Please, who?
They don't know. They don't know. Look at these hands. Look at those things.
I had 8 interceptions in 2 years. So guess what, Madden? I need that green arrow going up every week.
That's right.
You know, thank y'all for the great judgment of my player creation. But I think little things can be tweaked in and out. But you know, just a blessing to be on Madden, baby.
That's true. You are on there.
Yes, sir.
But I don't know if that mug's on there looking like that. Look at that mug. All right. Enjoyed it, pal.
You have to like a cornerback that is upset with his rankings as rookie. That's the mindset you want from a cornerback.
He's got a personality.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And you see it on that video. This is a guy that people are going to love this kid, especially if he gets out there and plays well.
If he plays like everybody thinks he's going to, he will be very, very popular. Well, the rest of the rookie class ranked as well, and it's kind of interesting. One of the interesting things is the speed for most of the guys that they took is ranked high, which shows you a little bit of what they were thinking and what they valued. Simone Takitaki, an 85 speed, the awareness is 64, tackling 79, his ability to jump at 88, which is really interesting. Redwine, same thing,
Yeah.
Which of these things kind of do you look at at the overall ranking and go, you might want to move that one up a little bit?
I'm a little surprised how low Sheldrick Redwine is. Honestly, I'm kind of looking at this. He's a 66, but the speed thing you bring up is interesting because, I thought Sheldrick Redwine might actually have been on their board because I was looking like they need a safety. This guy's pretty fast, and that's something that John Dorsey really values in guys, really across the board, is speed. So it's not surprising that Madden, when they sit down and they rate these guys, you see them all have big speed ratings. But I'm a little surprised that he's in the 60s. I thought maybe he'd end up a little bit higher.
Now the other one that kind of is a little bit surprising is Seibert. Austin?
Yeah.
That's pause for concern there, and that's a guy that was drafted. So
yeah, they've got him as a 91 power and a 70 accuracy as a kicker. Obviously, you hope that 70 is wrong, that they're going to have to upgrade that when they do their first game update after the season starts. But, it's kind of hard to judge based on a kicker in college at Oklahoma, a guy that didn't kick a lot of long field goals, and they went for it a lot, didn't get a lot of opportunities. So, I think some of this stuff they're kind of making up here as they go.
So, Browns fans are going to get in there and change all those anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You see Greedy relative to the rest of the class. Greedy and Taki ranked pretty high, which it really isn't that big of a surprise because physically, Taki was there.
Yeah, he was there, and Greedy was there, and I mentioned John Dorsey loving speed. He loves testing numbers, and that's sort of what EA Sports has to work off of, what they saw in college, but then also some of their testing numbers coming up through the combine. So it's not too surprising there's a couple of guys that, even though they weren't first-round picks, ended up pretty high up in the rankings.
And you see Greedy, ranked really high relative to the rest of the rookie cornerbacks, which I guess is to be expected.
Yeah, and he's a guy that some people thought could be a first-round pick. So, you go back, the Browns end up getting him in the 40s in the second round. A lot of people thought he could have been the first corner up, maybe not the first corner off the board, but the second corner off the board. He ends up falling to the Browns. So this is a guy that had a lot of the traits that could have made him a first-round pick.
And if they gave him what he felt he deserved catching the football, he would have been even higher.
Yeah, exactly. I was a little surprised by that one.
Yeah.
The tackling thing, of course, kind of like what he said. People are hearing that he can't tackle, and that's the knock on him coming out of LSU. So that's going to be a low number, but I was a looks surprised to see the hands that low.
I agree. Just in what we've seen in rookie minicamp and in the rookie camp, he looks like he has pretty good hands, actually.
Yeah.
Taki is another one that, relative to the others in the left outside linebacker, second highest. So again, that shows you kind of the skill set at least.
Yeah, and again, that's what John Dorsey loves to find is these traits, guys with traits. And this is a guy who played defensive end for a while and switched to linebacker, so that kind of hurt his draft stock. So he was there in the 3rd round. The Browns were able to grab him because he fit some of the profile that John Dorsey looks for when he evaluates these guys and drafts these guys.
And again, all this is just kind of fun as it's something to talk about as the Browns get ready for training camp. But there are skill sets there that the Browns have identified as things they want to do on the defense, and it's actually a really good thing when you think about upgrading speed and athleticism. If you're looking to carry that over, I think that's going to mean improved special teams play as well.
Yeah, and a guy like Taki on special teams, Mack Wilson on special teams. And the other thing is, I'm curious when the last time some random kid in Texas wanted to be the Browns in Madden. I mean, this is going to be when people are going to actually, they're going to fire up their Xbox or their PlayStation. They're like, you know what? I want to be the Browns. I want to have Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham and Jarvis. I want to be the Cleveland Browns. I want to score a bunch of points. I don't know when the last time somebody would have said that would have been.
It's probably before Madden existed.
Yeah, right? It would have been probably some 80s, old Nintendo Tecmo Bowl or something.
We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. When we return, we'll talk about the AFC Central and some of the acquisitions that have gone on in the AFC North. I'm old school. I called it the Central. It's the North. It's the North, the AFC North. Coming up when we return on More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. We will be right back.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family cool this summer,
let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at 440-449-HEAT.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue on this 4th of July weekend, and again, we're going to shift gears. Dan Lobby, Browns beat reporter from cleveland.com, and I are going to start talking a little bit about the AFC North. I said the Central before, AFC North. Let's talk a little bit about the best acquisitions for each of the teams. And, the Ravens went out, got a veteran safety. They lost Eric Weddle, but they went out and got a pretty good one in Earl Thomas.
Yeah, and this is a defense that lost a lot of pieces in free agency, and the bottom line is they're going to have to be good defensively again. They were one of the best defenses in the NFL last year, kind of went back to that old school Ravens football. So adding Earl Thomas at least makes up for some of those losses defensively that they had.
And you never know what you're going to get with that quarterback, so the defense better be very, very solid. Cincinnati, and this one's a little different. The new head coach, young, everybody's trying to find the next Sean McVay, and the Bengals went with Zach Taylor, who coached under McVay.
Yeah, a little early for Zach Taylor. I mean, a lot of people thought maybe this guy could be a head coach eventually. The Bengals decided, you know what, let's go get this guy right away. So they're kind of banking on the upside here with Zach Taylor. Marvin Lewis was there for so long and had success turning that team from kind of a joke into a consistent playoff team. But now Zach Taylor's going to come in. He's got Andy Dalton for a year. We'll see what they do at the quarterback position moving forward. But this is a long-term play for the Bengals. They hope that this guy does develop into a Sean McVay-like head coach.
Well, and they had Marvin Lewis for so long. At some point in time, the same voice, the same way, you need to get out of that, and I think that's kind of where they were.
Yeah, and it's just such a completely different direction because Marvin was always so stoic on the sideline, and I think Zach Taylor is going to be a little more dynamic. You're going to see a little more out of him than you used to see out of Marvin.
Dynamic, that's an interesting choice of words when we move to the Browns' biggest acquisition. In some areas, it might be the biggest in the NFL. It'll be interesting to see how Odell Beckham fits with this offense.
Yeah, you can get cute here and say, oh, Olivier Vernon or Greedy Williams, but let's be honest, it's Odell Beckham. Like you said, he might have been the biggest acquisition in the entire league. He changes the offense. He changes the balance of power in the AFC North, maybe even in the entire AFC. He makes the Browns legitimate contenders in both of those areas. So it's hard to say that Odell Beckham wasn't the Browns' biggest acquisition and maybe wasn't the NFL's biggest acquisition.
And, one of the things we've touched on is it'll be really interesting to see he and Baker Mayfield. He hasn't played with a guy that can throw the ball downfield like Baker Mayfield can.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much better he can be because he's had 1,300-yard seasons. He's had big touchdown seasons. Is there another 100, 200 yards in some of those years? Could he put up even bigger numbers than that? It's going to be interesting to see.
And that's not to, in no way am I knocking Eli Manning, who he played with at the Giants. It's just a different skill set that Baker Mayfield has.
Different skill set, a little more downfield maybe because Odell was always so good at taking slants and running with him. Maybe they're going to be able to open up some things downfield with him because Baker is so accurate. Scramble drills, all of that stuff. It's going to be fun to watch.
And, we talk about Pittsburgh's biggest acquisition. This is a guy I really liked, the linebacker, Devin Bush.
Yeah, a lot of people really liked Devin Bush, and the Steelers gave up some draft picks to go up and get him. It's a guy that they targeted. They're kind of trying to remake that defense a little bit on the fly. We know how Pittsburgh is. They always seem to reload. But ever since Ryan Shazier got hurt, they've kind of been scrambling to fill that spot. Devin Bush should be able to come in and contribute right away.
And that when we talked to the Steelers beat reporter, that was the thing. They hadn't been able to find a guy that could run like Ryan Shazier, and I think they might have got that one.
Yeah, and again, when a team trades up, especially a team like Pittsburgh, when a team like Pittsburgh trades up to get a guy, that should tell you something about how they feel about him.
Let's move on to the biggest questions for the teams in the division, the AFC North, and the Baltimore Ravens. This one, can Lamar Jackson develop as a thrower? And that's a huge question.
Yeah, and accuracy is something that has been kind of his bugaboo going all the way back to Louisville. He was always an athletic quarterback, had a good arm, but accuracy has always been a question. It followed him last year. Can you teach accuracy? I don't know, but the thing is, Lamar Jackson is so athletic, he doesn't have to be a great thrower. He doesn't have to be Baker Mayfield and pinpoint accurate, but he's got to be able to make big throws. And there were times last year when the Ravens on a 3rd and 8 would call an option. You can't survive like that in the NFL. You've got to be able to make a throw on 3rd down and 8 and get a first down.
Browns fans have not seen anybody that's been able to develop accuracy in the NFL.
Yeah.
And the flip side of that is, how long can you really run? I mean, see Robert Griffin III. That would be the biggest cautionary tale for Lamar Jackson. And I know they're different players, but the end result is the same. You cannot constantly have big, strong, athletic guys running after you trying to hitting you every play.
Yeah, well, and if Lamar needs to learn that lesson, he just needs to look at the sideline because Robert Griffin III is there in Baltimore right now. So he's got a guy like that to learn from. But the one thing that I did like about Lamar last year when he did run, he seemed to be really good protecting himself. Sometimes, though, you just can't help it because you've got to get that extra yard or you've got to get into that end zone. So, it can be bad for a quarterback if you're relying on running the ball.
And, unlike college, there are no, every guy on that field can run and is strong, and there is no weak spot. Let's transition to the Bengals. Did they finally get a supporting cast to help Andy Dalton? Their left tackle is injured, the guy that they drafted in the first round, so that was a big problem last year. Can they protect him, and do they have the pieces around him?
Yeah, they're going to have to move Cordy Glenn back over to left tackle, and that obviously wasn't good enough last year because they went and drafted a left tackle with their first-round pick. Andy Dalton is not a great quarterback, but he's a guy that if he has a supporting cast around him, as we saw when he had A.J. Green and Mohamed Sanu and Marvin Jones, he can be productive. If the Bengals can find that, if A.J. Green is healthy, if they can find a couple other receivers around him, if Joe Mixon can be as good as he was last year, maybe Andy Dalton can look like he did in 2014, 2015. But there's a real ceiling on Dalton, and it's based on the talent around him.
And the other thing will be interesting is how Zach Taylor, the head coach, how does his offense tailor it around?
Exactly.
Not play on words not intended. How do you tailor it around a guy like Andy Dalton?
Yeah, you kind of know what Andy Dalton is, right? He's not a great quarterback. He's going to have some games where he makes these throws that just make you scratch your head, and he'll have other games where he looks like he's a great quarterback, real inconsistent. But the Bengals are running it back with Dalton at least one more time, and Zach Taylor's going to see what he can do with him.
The Browns, the question with the Browns has to be about Freddie Kitchens, all the expectations that, they haven't been here for this franchise in quite a while.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how Freddie Kitchens manages things when they don't go real well. Let's say they lose to the Titans. Let's say they start 0-2. Let's say they could lose to the Titans and go on the road on Monday night and lose to the Jets. You're 0-2. Now some of those jokes in the press conferences don't land as easily, and now maybe you've got some guys complaining about not getting the football, things like that. That's what Freddie Kitchens is going to have to handle, is the adversity. It's something he's never been in a position where he's had to sort of be the front-facing guy if a team is struggling or not playing particularly well or not meeting high expectations. So that's really going to be the test for Freddie Kitchens.
And, his personality is such that he's not going to try. I don't think he's going to try to be anybody other than Freddie Kitchens, which is, that's all you can ask.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy that we've seen from the day that he did his first press conference as the offensive coordinator. He's going to be that guy every single week. It's going to be about managing the locker room and making sure that guys, if they are unhappy, he's able to find ways to keep them happy, and he was able to do that in spots last year.
Then as we shift to the Steelers, lost a lot. The question is, can the young skill position guys play at the level that they need to? Connor, Schuster.
Yeah, Juju is really kind of the big question.
Right.
He played a lot in the slot last year. The last 2 weeks, I looked it up a couple weeks ago. The last 2 weeks he played on the outside. Had a really good game against New Orleans. Not so great against Cincinnati, but he's a guy that's really worked in the slot a ton. Now he's going to be asked to go to the outside. Can he do that? James Conner was good last year. He also put up a lot of yardage against the Browns in the 2 games that they played, and there were some stretches where he wasn't all that great, and there were some stretches where you would see a play and think, oh, Le'Veon Bell would have caught that ball and taken it into the end zone, and James Conner maybe had a drop. So can those guys take their game to the next level and fill the void left by the losses of Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, and as we go on, we're going to talk a little bit about the looming contract questions, and those are the ones that are interesting as far as the division goes, and how you get that, and with Baltimore you look at it and it's their cornerback, Brandon Carr.
Yeah, they have 2 veteran corners that they're going to roll back with, and Brandon Carr is one of those guys, and they're going to have a decision to make on Brandon Carr and whether they want to get younger at that position, get cheaper at that position. That's always the question in the NFL, because we're seeing that teams go with, instead of maybe veteran guys, let's save a little money, go with a younger guy. So we'll see kind of what they do at the cornerback position moving forward. But Brandon Carr is kind of the big question for them after this season.
And when we get to the Bengals, it's somebody who we've kind of touched on, Cordy Glenn, a guy that is going to be counted on that offensive line, which did not have a good year last year.
Yeah, he's a guy they traded for last offseason. Played him at left tackle. Like I said, he obviously wasn't good enough to prevent them from drafting a left tackle instead of maybe a quarterback or something like that in the first round. So he was originally going to slide back into guard, and this is a guy that's getting paid like a tackle. Now, it's a good thing they hung on to him because they're going to need him to slide back out to left tackle again. But he gets a little bit cheaper to move on from after this season, and they're going to have to make a decision if Jonah Williams is healthy on him.
And again, Zach Taylor, the new head coach, offensive guy, can kind of shift schemes and try to help, but at the end of the day, you can't hide a guy on the line. Browns, Jarvis Landry. This is one that kind of pops out as well.
Yeah, Jarvis, the guy that they brought in, signed that 5-year, $75 million extension. But the thing about the NFL, every contract is basically a 2 or 3 year contract. Just throw away the last few years. Teams can make decisions off that. They guarantee a bunch of money up front. That's what they did with Jarvis Landry. After this season, I can't recall the exact numbers off the top of my head, but if they decide that Jarvis Landry is too much money, especially because they're paying Odell Beckham a lot of money, they can decide, you know what? We're going to trade you or we're going to cut you. I don't think they would do it after year 2, but you really kind of start to watch that after year 3, year 4. As that contract gets a little bit cheaper, there's cap savings to move on. They might have to start considering that.
Yeah, and again, winning cures a lot of that. So you go out and win and you don't have to worry about as much.
And having that quarterback on that rookie contract, you can afford to spend a bunch of money on Odell and Jarvis Landry. But eventually, you're going to have to start paying guys.
And then Pittsburgh Steelers, our old buddy, Joe Hayden.
Familiar name, yeah, Joe Hayden. In the last year of his contract, very strange to see a couple weeks ago the headlines headlines that he wanted to retire as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Who would have thought like 5 years ago that we would see that headline with Joe Hayden wants to retire a Pittsburgh Steeler? He's in the last year of his contract. I think they like him there, but at the same time, he's an aging corner. We talked about it with Brandon Carr. These aging corners, sometimes you don't want to pay them a lot of money, and Joe Hayden's a guy that has made a lot of money in his career. He'd have to want to take a discount for the Steelers to keep him around. They've got an expensive quarterback still in Ben Roethlisberger, so I'm curious to see what they want to do with Joe Hayden. I saw the other day that there's not really any movement as far as a new contract is concerned, so we'll see what happens with Joe at the end of this season.
And the other thing about those aging corners, it usually is not a gradual decline. It's more like a cliff.
Yeah, and Joe's a guy that he's kind of younger than you think he is.
Right.
But now he is finally 30 years old, and he's getting to that wrong side of 30 where you're starting to think, I don't know how much money I want to invest in this guy. If he's my number 1 or number 2 corner, I might want to go a different direction.
Well, Dan, as always, we appreciate you stopping in on the holiday weekend, giving us insight. Dan Lobby, Cleveland Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. When we return, Chris Fedor will join us. We'll talk Cavs summer basketball as the Cavs in action under John Beilein. More sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Time to shift gears. We're going to talk a little bit about NBA basketball, Cavs basketball. We welcome in the Cavs beat reporter for cleveland.com, Chris Fedor. Chris is with the Cavs Summer League team. Chris, John Beilein coaching his first professional games. What have you noticed about John Beilein, the coach? And again, I know it's a very small sample size and it isn't technically NBA games, but what have you noticed about Coach Beilein?
I think, Dave, he's just trying to take everything in and trying to learn from this experience and get his feet wet when it comes to the NBA. He joked, well, I don't think it was a joke. It was serious, but it came across as a joke the other night after their first game. He was waiting for the jump ball to start the second. I mean, think about that, right? The spacing is different. The timeout situation is different. The speed of the game is different. How long the game is, that's different too. So these are all things that John, I think, is trying to work through, and he's going to have to get used to. So I think that's one thing that has stood out to me. And the other thing, Dave, is that he's very, very energetic. I remember talking to somebody when Cavs hired him, like, wait a minute, you hired a 66-year-old head coach for this young, up-and-coming team. That doesn't seem to mesh very well. And the thing that they told me at that time was he's a lot younger. He comes across a lot younger. He communicates in a younger way. He has the energy of a 30 or 40-year-old. And I think that has started to come across here in Summer League as well.
The other thing is it's a chance for him and his staff to work together. So those are all kind of good things and important things because it'll give them a little bit of a feel for what they need to address and how they want to go about things.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Dave. The Cavs arrived in Park City, Utah on June 28th. So they had 3 days of what they called Summer League training camp before their first game on July 1st. And during that stretch, the way that John Beilein set things up is one day he would run the practice. Another day it would be Lindsey Gottlieb. Another day it would be J.B. Bickerstaff. And another day it would be Antonio Lang, who's supposed to coach the team in Las Vegas for Summer League. So, yeah, I think what he's trying to develop here with his coaches is, okay, you're not just the defensive coordinator. You're not just the offensive coordinator. You're not just going to be focused on this, and this. Like, we want you to focus on everything. We want this to be a collaborative approach. If you have ideas, give them to me, right? If you have different drills that you want the group to be doing, give those to me as well. So I think it's really, really interesting that he's trying to spread out the responsibilities as much as possible, and delegate a little bit more than what you would think from a head coach who sometimes likes to be in control of things.
What about some of the guys, players that kind of have at least shown a little bit? And again, I know it's summer league. I know the competition is different, but some guys that you look at and you go, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, Dave. This is summer league, and it's hard to really get a gauge on those sorts of things, and stats can be deceiving, and the final score really doesn't matter. I think the bottom line is the Cavs have one guy here that is going to make the 14-man roster, and then they have a couple of other guys that are fighting for either a two-way contract on this team or maybe that last roster spot to take like a minimum level type contract. So this is an audition in part for those spots, but it's also the Cavs taking a look at some of these guys and wondering, can they be future members of the Canton Charge? Because they're scouting for those types of players as well. Dylan Windler is the standout. I think he was the guy when Darius Garland wasn't going to play in Summer League, when Kevin Porter Jr., when it was reported that he was dealing with a hip flexor injury. Dylan Windler, all of a sudden the spotlight shines on him because he's the third member of the 3-team draft class. And I think he's done well. I think he has shown an understanding of the offense. I think he has found a way to impact games that go beyond just scoring. And again, it's just summer league, so you don't want to make too much of that. But Dave, that's one of the reasons why the Cavs really liked Dylan. Analytics pointed to him being a really productive NBA pro because if his shot's not falling, he can do other things to help. And guys that can help in that kind of way, after a year where we spent a lot of time discussing, well, does Colin Sexton help his teammates? Does he contribute in other ways? What is he? Is he just a score-first guy who's out for himself? Having somebody like Dylan, I think, who is an analytics darling, who can do a lot of different things on the court, I think that's going to be good for the Cavs.
Let's shift gears just a little bit. J.R. Smith, still a member of this team. He pushed back the date where they had to make a decision to guarantee his big contract. How does that fit? Have you heard anything about the J.R. Smith situation?
So, Dave, the Cavs are really surprised at this point that other teams that they have offered JR to haven't accepted their offer. And they believe, according to my sources, that some of the offers that they have made have been better than what some of these teams have taken. For instance, the Andre Iguodala deal that went with the Memphis Grizzlies so that the Warriors could clear up cap space to go out and get D'Angelo Russell in a sign and trade. It was clear that the Warriors were shedding that salary. They needed to shed that bulky salary of Andre Iguodala. The Cavs offered different levels of protection on some of those first-round picks that the Warriors were willing to give up to the Memphis Grizzlies. Protections that the Cavs felt like were looser than what Memphis actually demanded in that type of salary dump. Now, look, the Golden State Warriors might have said, the 4+ guaranteed of J.R. Smith is too much for us because we're so deep into the cap and we're right up against the tax apron. But the Cavs felt like that was something that maybe they could have done with the Golden State Warriors to help them out in moving Andre Iguodala. In all of these conversations that you have seen around the NBA, Dave, that have been salary dumps, the Cavs have been involved in all of them. And at this point, they are surprised that they haven't been able to get what they thought they could for JR. So if you want to call that the Cavs having a wrong view of JR, valuing him a little bit too much, or just misplaying the market, I feel like that's probably fair. But they have been involved in all of these. They just haven't been able to get something done.
Last question I'll ask you then. Do you think that at some point they will be able to trade J.R. Smith, or does it end up where they just, eat the contract and then, it comes against, where they are salary cap wise?
Never say never, just because things change so quickly in the NBA. What happens if Kawhi Leonard goes to the Los Angeles Clippers? Do they all of a sudden feel like they want to free up some salary space? Who knows? What happens if he goes to the Los Angeles Lakers? Do they feel like they need to free up some salary cap space to do other things around the periphery? So it's just so hard to know because there's so many things that can happen between now and the 15th and then now and August 1st. My feel is that the Cavs are still trying to do something when it comes to JR. They're still hoping that they can get an asset for him. If that's a first-round pick, that'd be great. If it's a young, up-and-coming player on a team-friendly, controllable contract, that'd be great too. If it's taking on extra money to get multiple assets, I think they'd be willing to do that. It just seems like a lot of the teams that they had targeted in a J.R. Smith trade, Dave, have already made those moves that they had to free up that salary cap space. So if I'm guessing right now, I would say that the Cavs probably end up just waiving JR and getting his money off the books and staying below the luxury tax.
Chris Fedor, as always, we appreciate the time. The Cavs beat reporter joining us from Cavs Summer League, and we will check back in with Chris as the situation develops with the season. Well, that'll do it for us on this edition of the Weekend Winners Edition, a special 4th of July holiday weekend edition. Have a great and safe holiday. Les Levine will be back with you Monday night from 6 to 7 for more sports. And Les Levine, have a great rest of your weekend, everyone.